Hi, Martin here. Today we're going to install a standard 1-ton RuffStuff tie rod kit. Alright, I'm putting this on a 98 XJ that I've had for years. Currently running the Iron Rock over the knuckle steering system, and which is made for like the XJs and ZJs and a couple more letters. And I got a WJ conversion on here that I've done years ago. Now the Iron Rock kit comes with Heim's joints. Awesome for off-road use. Very strong, all that. The only downside is they don't really last that long. And if you know anything about the Jeeps, they're solid front axle. They are prone to death wobble. And you get a little bit of play in those Heim joints. And it doesn't take much. And you're going to have death wobble. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about right now. Alright, that's getting worse. Of course, and because it's not going to get better unless you fix it. And this is one of the stunts that made it a lot worse. Now doing stuff like that, of course you're really putting a lot of stress on all your joints and everything on that front end. Alright, well let's get started. Now the RuffStuff kit comes with everything you need. It comes with 54 inches DOM tubing with a 1/4 inch wall to it. It comes with the Chevy 1-ton offset tie rods, and then these tube adapters that you're going to need to weld in. Alright, with the vehicle supported with jack stands, I'm going to go ahead and pull both tires off so we can easily work on this. Alright, I'm running the PSC Hydro Assist ram here. I'm going to go ahead and just disconnect it at this end and then tie it up out of the way. Alright, I know you're looking at these going, Martin, those are Johnny joints. Well, yes they are, and they're not exactly meant to do what a tie rod or a Heim's joint is meant to do. But I thought I'd just give it a try. I mean, they've been on here for well over a year, if not 2 years. Yeah, at least 2 years. And they worked. Of course, now I got death wobble, and you saw it. But I ended up with death wobble with these as well. They don't last all that much longer. These are no doubt stronger. Okay, I was just trying anything. Well, we're gonna go back to tie rods because this is a, 95% of the time it's street driven. I don't need the strength of a Heim joint, especially if it's gonna wear out quickly and end up with death wobble. I just assume we'll go back with tie rods and be done with it. Alright, now the same to the other side. Now, with that tie rod removed, we got to get this hole here reamed out to accept the size of the taper of these 1-ton Chevy tie rods. Now, from RuffStuff, I got this tapered drill bit right here, this reamer. These are quite expensive. This one was $68 plus a few dollars shipping. Also comes with a T-handle like that. You can do it by hand as well. Now, as far as I can tell, everybody sticks it in a drill and does it that way. Now, what will reduce the amount of reaming, if you drill out these holes to 5/8 of an inch first. And that way you don't have to do so much of this. And I'm going to be going over the knuckle. You could do it either way with this kit. Come underneath here. It would be the other tie rod. Like so. Or, like I'm going to do, let's go over. Once I get that reamed out, this will drop down far enough that none of this here becomes an issue as far as clearance goes. And this is also the best thing to do if you're wanting the maximum ground clearance, which most of us want in any type of off-road vehicle for rock crawling or mud bogging, whatever it is. Now, when using this type of reamer, you want to be careful with it. Go slow and easy, use lots of lube, and just take your time. If you have one, it's best probably go to a corded drill. All right, there, it's getting close. You want to check this quite often. As you can see, it, drop it in there, and I'm starting to get quite a bit of the threads poking through the bottom, and I can actually see the hole for the cotter pin. When I put the castle nut on it, I still can't see it through here though. So I got a little bit ways to go yet. Just a little bit further yet. All right, I'm able to get the cotter pin through. I'm going to call that one good. Now you could sit here with a dial caliper if you wanted to and measure this part here and how big the hole's got to be on the top or the bottom. I believe it's 0.75 inches at the top and like 0.68 or 0.65 at the narrow part of this hole. Alright, and there's the hole right there. I'll tell you what, I almost went too far with this one. But I stopped right at the right time. Right there. So we'll be able to, once that's tightened up, it's going to work great. Alright. That part is done. Now when it comes to using this type of a reamer, be very careful. You're only drilling into cast. The material removes rather quickly. I just about went too far. It actually turned out just perfect. When I sit there and looked at that hole at the top, I'm like, holy crap, that's big. And but when placing it in here, and then putting the castle nut on, you can you know, see the hole through the castle nut part just perfectly. So luckily I stopped just in time. So, but be careful of that. Okay, now what we need to do is determine how long to make the tie rod. Of course, you can just simply take the measurement off your old tie rod, center of the ball joint, or in my case the Heim's joint or Johnny joint, from one end to the other. Get your overall length. Now I put the jam nut on here, and I want to put this tube adapter on quite a ways. So I'm going to probably run it on about that far and leave basically that much of adjustment, which is probably a good 1/2 to 5/8 of inch adjustments, which is quite a bit actually. And you want to put this on quite a ways because you want that to have a good bite on those threads. You want, you know, plenty of threads on there, and that's going to make it all the stronger. Okay, we're going to get in there somewhere right about there. Okay, now I'm going to get my measurement, and I'll run a tape measure from that end to this end and determine how long we got to cut that tube. Alright, by taking a tape measure over here to the far tie rod, laying this flat on the ground, and I'm just hooking it on the far side of where the bolt would go through. Then bringing it over here, checking over here to the inside of this one, and I'm coming at right at 52 3/4 inches. Now with the tube adapters properly adjusted where you want them to give you, you know, enough play one way or the other. Because the toe in on these Jeeps is where I like it is 0 to 1/16 of an inch toe in. That's it. Alright, now taking the tape measure, what I'm going to do is hook it to the grease zerk on the other side, and then bring it to this side, and we'll get it squared up until we reach that 52 3/4 inch mark, right? Okay, I'm practically right there right now. I'm right on it, right there. Okay, 52 3/4. Now, placing the tape measure right here on the opposite side, there, and that's going to give us our tube length. Okay, 52 3/4. Just checking again. Okay, I'm coming up with a 44 13/16 tube length. Now just remember, if you're doing this on a XJ or ZJ, whatever, that doesn't have the WJ knuckles on it, you're going to end up with a much different measurement. So don't go by my measurements if you don't have at least the WJ knuckles on your XJ, TJ, ZJ, right? Alright, I got my tube here measured out, clamped down here in the vise. I'm going to use my portaband to cut this. And personally, I'd like to have a chop saw to do this. You get a really nice square cut. Don't have one, so we're going to use the portaband. Alright, got it all cut off. Got about that much left over. My favorite part here, made in the USA. And check out the thickness of that. I mean, that's some heavy wall stuff there. Go ahead and prep each end and get it ready to weld. Alright, I went ahead and just placed it in here. Just make sure before I do any welding. And I can sit here and adjust this tube and watch the measurement change. So I'm well within where I want to be. Right there. So I'll go ahead and remove this, get this tube welded up. With the tube adapter in place, I lay a couple spot welds on there, 180 degrees from each other. Now, with my free hand, I can simply roll the tube while welding it. All right, got her all welded up, looking good, ready to install. But before we install it, I am going to prep this and shoot some paint onto it. All right, I got this all painted, looking really good. We'll get this installed and then go take it out for, get the toe in adjusted and then take it out for a drive. All right, now what do I do for toe in? Like I mentioned before, I like 0 to 1/16 of an inch toe in. And all I do is find the same point. Let's say we're going to use the tire. Okay, the very edge of the tread to the very edge of the tread on the same spot. And then we're going to do it on the back. Measure that. And I'm looking for 1/16 of an inch toe in. So when you do measure this, I measure at equal height with the axle on both sides, and then front to back both sides. And then we'll make our adjustments on the bar until we get that 1/16 toe in. So first we'll get a baseline, see where we're at. We're at 52 and 5/16. At like 52 and 5/16 on the front and just over 53 on the back. So we're out, you know, we're towed in way too far. I'll give it a couple turns. I can see the tire moving out. I'm spinning it in the right direction. Okay, about 52 and 3/4. I'll go check the back. All right, I go back and forth quite often from front to back and make small adjustments. Another option to do is use an adjustable painter's pole. Place it between the tires, lock it down, and then you go to the back. And then do that until you get a 1/16 of an inch on the back of the front tires. And once you get your measurement, take your jam nuts and spin them down against the tie rod to lock in your measurement. All right, once you get the toe in adjusted properly, all I gotta do is tighten down these jam nuts right here on both sides, and we should be good to go. All right, now that we got that installed, we need to hook up our either steering stabilizer, or in my case, I got a hydro assist ram on there from PSC. Now, with the tie rod that I was running from Iron Rock, because of its shape, it's always sitting this way. And the only way you can adjust the tie rod ends is by removing the bolt spinning one or both rod ends and then putting it back on again. Now, with this RuffStuff tie rod, naturally you just loosen it up like a typical tie rod, spin the shaft itself to adjust your toe in and out. Okay, but so in that case, you cannot have these tabs for your steering stabilizer welded directly to the bar to get a, let's say, a proper adjustment. You could be slightly too much towed in or too much towed out, depending where you spun this shaft, because you got to spin it at least 360 degrees. So to cure that problem, I got a heavy-duty steering bar clamp. Now RuffStuff does sell those. At the time I ordered, they were out of stock, and I got this one from Chassis Unlimited out of California, and it's basically built exactly the same, other than it does not have a hole drilled in the center and tapped. So, because they leave it optional, because you may want to use this for something else. You'll weld a tab on here for, let's say, a roll cage accessory for a light bar or whatever. What we're going to do is drill a 5/8 hole in here. Now I highly recommend you buy a USA made one of these. I've read a lot of reviews. The Chinese ones, or wherever they're coming from, they're inferior. The bolts don't properly line up with everything. This one here, absolutely perfect. I mean, everything lines up. It is precision made. So buy yourself a quality USA made one, and actually they're only just a few dollars more than the Chinese knockoff ones. All right. Alright, with the head of the bolt cut off to the proper length, and I got this set up here in the vise with that nut on there properly adjusted to the height I want. Now I'm going to bring the welder over. We're going to weld that into place. Alright, I got this clamp on here. Now when you do these things, make sure your gap right in here is the same on both sides, so that way you're evenly clamping it. You're not just torquing down this one side and then there's a big old gap on the other side. So I just start with the 2 center bolts, get them even, and then add the other 4 and then torque everything down. Alright, that's looking pretty good. Alright, I got about 75 feet before I realized I had some kind of issue, so I backed it right back into the garage. And for whatever reason, these tie rods are actually touching the wheel. And this one, on this side here, it did a nice ground job on my wheel. I went ahead and took a flapper disc to it and cleaned it up. And then I took a flapper disc to the tie rod itself and kind of rounded off that corner right there. I'll show you what I'm going to do to the other side as well. Okay, right here, I could see where it was making contact with the wheel. So I'm just going to take a flapper disc and round off this corner right here. Now this is most likely caused because of the 15-inch wheels and the particular offset that the wheel may have. Now you may actually have the same problem on a 16-inch wheel. So keep this in mind. If you're running a 17-inch wheel or larger, I don't think you'll have the problem at all. And on a 15 or 16-inch wheel, it's going to depend on the offset of the wheel. As you can see right there, I'm testing it. I'm still making some contact right there. Pulled the wheel back off again and removed a little bit more until I got the proper clearance. And I'm looking for just enough at full left and right turn to have the proper clearance. Alright, well, got it all installed. It did not cure my death wobble problem, but that's for another video to come. I'm glad I did this anyway. I always wanted to put these Chevy tie rods in here, these 1 tons. And now you also saw a couple things you got to watch out for. And that is your wheel clearance to the tie rod ends. So as soon as you get this installed, you're going to have to turn it left and right before you drive it. Make sure they clear okay. And it's just something to consider, that you may have this problem with a 15, maybe even a 16-inch wheel, depending on your offset. Alright, I hope you enjoyed that. And if you've never subscribed to me before, please hit that subscribe button right down there and that bell symbol right next to it, and that way you get notifications of any upcoming videos as I post them. Thanks again.